Bear down, Chicago Bears. We've got a hot breaking report now. Tarvarius Moore has signed with the Chicago Bears. We also re-signed Jaylen Johnson to the practice squad, and Patrick Scales, the long snapper, has been re-signed. We're going to break this down. Now, look, if you haven't already, please subscribe, hit the like button, the bell to be notified of future content. Leave me a comment down below letting me know. But the question today that I've been asking all day is Justin Fields or Caleb Williams? Let me know which one it is. Let me know what you think it is. The Bears have signed 49ers safety Tarvarius Moore, and he's coming in. We don't know the contract yet. We don't have the details, but this guy's played from 2018 to 2022. He played for the San Francisco 49ers, started 13 games, played in 61 games during that period of time, but moved on to the Green Bay Packers last year. However, did not see any time on the field, was signed, got injured in preseason, ended up on the injured reserve, and then was released from the injured reserve because that's what Green Bay do, I guess. Anyway, he represents a pretty viable option as some relief at the safety position. And listen, there are some things that the Bears are going to have to do to improve at that position. Number one is to bring in some sort of backups, of course. Now, same thing. Bears have extended wide receiver Jaylen Johnson. He is on the practice squad. So we'll see how he develops. And at some point, maybe he comes up to the active roster. Maybe he gets a drink of water, if you will. We are going to need some wide receivers. But I think the focus right now probably going to be on defense. We're going to look at some statistics about the available money that the Chicago Bears currently have to get some ideas here, because the ultimate thing is, who's the quarterback? That's the question that we're asking, right? And there's some weird things that are playing out on social media right now. Some make sense, some don't make sense. Some are pro Caleb, some are pro Justin. But we don't know anything until we get some clarity from Ryan. I do want to point out the Jaylen Johnson contract specific details came out, and he's getting 4 years, $76 million. It averages out $19 million a year, but it includes $28 million for this year. Now, that is not a salary cap hit of $28 million for Jaylen Johnson for this year. I do have some salary cap information for you so that we could effectively, kind of look at it and see, what's the cap hit. But the average salary is going to be $19 million. And what we're looking for is what's it going to count against the Chicago Bears. 13,450,000, I think, is the number, or 13 million is what's going to count towards the salary cap for Jaylen Johnson, leaving us with about 62 million in play money to work our way through for this next season, which seems like a very reasonable amount. And what I'd like to see, obviously, is a little bit more defensive help. And here's what I'm going to do, guys. What I want to do right now is I want to point out a few things to you, which I think are very, very important. First of all, this is the cap space that's available. This you can see right here. It doesn't show a tremendous amount of cap space. 63,933,870. Now, everybody got a kick up with the cap going up to 255.4 million. So everybody got a little bit more than what they had before, of course. So that applies to everybody. But after signing Jaylen Johnson, 13,425, by the way, is the cap number. That leaves 63,900 roughly. And Ryan Pohl's going to want to keep maybe 10 million for free agents during the course of the year in case you have an emergency. You're going to need a player, something like that. So you're going to have to keep a little bit, which leaves about $50 million in order for you to sign all of the free agents and all of your draft picks. Now, your draft picks are going to cost you anywhere from, depending on where you draft, it's going to cost you anywhere from 10 to 20 million. So 15 million, let's call it, in the middle. So take that out of this bucket, and that puts us at, what are we looking at right now? We'd be looking at a little under 40, let's call it 48,000, 48 million. So who do we sign for 40? I'm sorry, we take 10 million out for the season. So 38 million. So what are we going to sign for 38 million. That's the question that I think everybody is going to be asking at this point. And the only place that you can get capital like that, and the only place that you can make those kind of deals, and this is a trick I think Ryan Poles is kind of playing on everybody right now, is I'm starting to think that despite plenty of the things that are being said right now, I think that Ryan Poles is leaning towards Justin Fields. And the reason for that is because of the salary cap. $38 million is what he's got left. And look, if you think that the Chicago Bears are a Caleb Williams away from making it to the Super Bowl, then I'm here to tell you no. I'm here to tell you that I think that they could be a playoff team. I do think that the Bears are going to be much improved from this year to next. I do think that that is accurate. And I do think that is true, but I don't think that Caleb Williams gives them the best opportunity to win. I do think that that still represents Justin Fields because he has more familiarity with the system. But here's the thing. It's not about Caleb Williams versus Justin Fields. It's about the draft capital that would be available. Now, listen, I'm going to point out two lists to you that we're going to kind of go over here to give you guys an idea. And what I want to point out are the top 10 defenders for the Chicago Bears and the bottom 10 defenders of the Chicago Bears, just so you guys have an idea of how bad this could be. So this is an article that appears on the Bears Wire, top 10 defensive players. And of course, Jaylen Johnson is going to be number one. Now, we know that to be the case. Number two, TJ Edwards. That makes perfect sense. Number three, Montez Sweat. Again, still making perfect sense. Number four, Terrell Smith. Love Terrell Smith. Surprising to see Terrell Smith come in so highly. Jack Sanborn. Jack Sanborn's been a great kind of hitter. Certainly like to see what he's doing on the field. But cornerback Greg Stroman comes in, checks in at 66.6, having a good year. Andrew Billings having a great year. Then we move on to Kyler Gordon. See, a lot of cornerbacks are grading out very well for the Chicago Bears this year. And then at number 9, we have safety Jaquan Brisker. And then at number 10, another cornerback in safety Jaylen Jones. That shows you that we have a lot of capital in the cornerback position and that we've done a very tremendous job so far in maintaining our cornerbacks. But let's go check out the bottom 10 defenders because it shows you a little bit more and gives you an idea on why, in my opinion, this is still a draft where you have to trade down. The number 1 pick, trade it down. Get some draft capital in the 2 or the 3 pick. Try to get Marvin Harrison Jr. Just try to do that. And at the 9 pick, trade down again. Try to get to the 15, 16 range, and then try to get Jackson Powers Johnson. See if you can get your center of the future. Both of those things are going to help you tremendously. And if you decide to trade down on the 1 and you get Marvin Harrison Jr. and you want to keep the 9, I would have no problem with that if you're picking up somebody like Dallas Turner or Jared Verse and shoring up your edge rushing. I'm going to show you why, as a matter of fact. Let's kick that off. So this is a list of the top 10 worst players on defense for the Bears, with the worst player, Dominique Robinson. Look, Dominique Robinson has been the worst defensive end that we've had. Just absolutely no pressure at all. Grades out at 35.33. Very, very bad. Number 2 was Yannick Ngakoue. Now, I want to say that Yannick Ngakoue, I thought, was probably going to have a much better season, but he did not end up that way because he got injured right when it looked like Montez Sweat was coming around and everything was starting to jive, if you will. Everything was starting to come together, and we were getting that sense that the Bears defense was coming together. Then Yannick Ngakoue, after having a good game, gets injured, and he's out for the year. So didn't get a chance to really kind of shore it up, but I do think that he had some upside. Next up, number 3, Elijah Hicks. Safety position represented one of the worst performances in the Chicago Bears staff. Number 4 was defensive tackle Justin Jones, which is why when you see me do these mock drafts, I'm always picking defensive tackles, and I'm always looking to move on, assuming Justin Jones is not going to be back. I think that Gervon Dexter represents a better option, but let me move on, because at number 5 is defensive end Rasheem Green. Again, very little playing time, didn't do very well when he was there. But number 6, Gervon Dexter. And look, Gervon Dexter was an upgrade to Justin Jones, but he was also young and came on as the year went. And then what else? Zach Pickens, defensive tackle. And then what's up? Tremaine Edmonds, the linebacker. Then number 9, Eddie Jackson, the safety. And then number 10, defensive end DeMarcus Walker, who I think it's safe to say that safety and defensive end continue to be a problem. And in many ways, defensive tackle continues to be a problem for the Chicago Bears. A Chicago Bears defense that, to be fair, had a great run towards the end of the season and really started to look like they were coalescing and coming together as a team, holding teams other than in their last 8 games, other than the 31 points that they gave up to Detroit in what was just an absolutely wild finish to a game that we had no business losing. The rest of the games were really good. We didn't give up very many points at all. So when we're looking at these guys as the worst, still a pretty good team. So we're not a horrible team, but we played horrible to begin the season. So there has to be, you have to look at the good and you have to look at the bad. But you should note, defensive end is a problem. Defensive tackle is still a problem. Safety is still a massive problem. So those 3 places are going to have to be addressed. Now, to get back into it, that leads us to, what do we have that we can do? What is the deal here? Well, the deal is that we have 63,933,000 in order to work with. Now, I want to take you back just a step here. I'm not telling you what they're going to do in the draft, but I'm telling you what they should do in the draft. And if you have 63.9 million that's remaining, 15 of it is going to go into the draft. 10 million is going to be your cash reserves. So that's 25 million coming out of there. That leaves 38 million remaining. 38 million. You have to sign an edge rusher who's very, very good. You have to sign a defensive tackle who's going to be very, very good. You need another wide receiver. You need you need pieces to this team. You need another safety that's going to be starter worthy. Tarvarius Moore is going to be a certifiable good backup. However, he is not the answer at the safety position. No, and I don't think anybody thinks that, by the way. Ryan Bates was not the answer at the center position. He was just a perfect sub that's available to substitute for the center and guard position. Good player, solid guy, what you want to have on the team. But there are holes. Now, that doesn't even begin to address all of the positions. We still need a tight end. We still need another wide receiver. We still need probably to upgrade the tackle position. And if we don't upgrade the tackle position, then if you come up here and you look at, where is the money going, right? If you look at where the money's going, then we're probably spending quite a bit of money where we don't need to on somebody like a Larry Borum. Larry Borum, not very good, but $3 million going into this. So it's a $3 million cap hit. Couldn't you? There's possibility, by the way, after June 1st, some of these guys are still gone. Some wild possibilities that are still out there on how to continue to improve this lineup. There are still pieces that are out here that we need to take care of that as of right now we have not taken care of. And certainly that offensive line in many different ways probably still needs some depth to it. Again, Ryan Bates came in, so we're in a good position there. But I mean, looking up and down this list right here, you can see where the money's going. And let's close this out with the final piece to the equation. We need a wide receiver. We need a defensive tackle, a defensive end, a safety. We need some depth at the offensive left tackle position. And we still need a center. And what the fan expects is for that to be accomplished on a $38 million budget right now. Cannot be accomplished. And it also cannot be accomplished with 5 draft picks. Now, this is the Caleb Williams draft. So it's possible that we're looking at Caleb Williams being the first overall pick. If Caleb Williams is the first overall pick, then we have to sign a wide receiver. To get a certifiable, decent wide receiver, minimum of $10 million, leaving $28 million left in this vein. Okay. This is why I think Marvin Harrison becomes incredibly important, because he is out there. And with a 2 or 3 pick, that's between $8 or $7 million. And I think that that's a little bit less expensive and again, I think he's the generational talent. I've said it before and I'll say it again. But if you take Caleb Williams, then you have to take a receiver at the 9 position. Otherwise, you're going to continue exactly what you're going through. Now, there are people who insiders, quote unquote, with no information and have no idea what's going on. And one of the things that I heard somebody say the other day is that the Bears now think that they are one Caleb Williams away from a Super Bowl. Guys, let me tell you something. I do think that the Bears have the capacity to become a playoff team. But if you think that the Bears are one maybe quarterback away. And by the way, I don't mean disrespect to Caleb Williams. If you like Caleb Williams, continue liking Caleb Williams. Nothing wrong with him, but he's a maybe. He's in college. We don't know how that translates into the NFL. We think we know. We think we see the talent there, but we don't know. We think we know his makeup, but we don't know. We will find out, of course, and we'll find out no matter what team drafts him. But if the Bears do, and they move on from Justin Fields, maybe you get a 3rd or 4th round pick for Justin Fields. That's what the market looks like at best. We would like to see a 1st or 2nd round, of course, but that just doesn't exist. We've already tipped our hat maybe just a little too much. And right now, the Bears seem to have no leverage. So that goes back to, we only have 5 draft picks. So if we use the 1 draft pick that gets us 3 or 4 other draft picks, or even 2 good ones, or 3 good ones in this draft, we are going to regret that, in my opinion, for a very long time. So I think that it's imperative that you go down from Caleb Williams, that number 1 pick, trade with the Commanders or trade with the Patriots, get some 2nd round and 3rd round draft picks out of that move and a 1st round for the next year, and then go get Marvin Harrison Jr. If you get Marvin Harrison Jr. at the 3 position, then your next step, of course, would be to go down to that 9 position and then decide what you want. Do you want a Brock Bowers? Because you could use a Brock Bowers, but I think Cade Stover is available later on in the draft. And I'm not telling you that I wouldn't want Brock Bowers, but what I would like to do is I would like to be able to pick up more draft capital by trading down 9 and getting down into that 15 range, where I'm going to reach down for the 20th best player overall at Jackson Powers Johnson. And now I'm going to have Marvin Harrison Jr., who I know has fixed my wide receiver problem. At least I think he's fixed the wide receiver problem. And then I fixed the center with Jackson Powers Johnson, who I think most people agree is the best center that we've seen coming out of the draft since Jason Kelce is what people are saying right now. Is that true? I don't know. I see the talent in Marvin Harrison. I see the talent in a lot of different players, but I don't always think that they're, the comparisons, they do nobody any justice. But if this guy is a good center, then maybe Ryan Bates start the season and Jackson Powers Johnson starts to get a few plays in. And if he turns out to be something special, then boom, problem solved. And then that moves us down, because we've made the draft picks, to either the 34 or the 36 pick in the draft. And that gives us the opportunity to pick up additional draft capital that would be a starter, and possibly a starter on day 1, in Darius Robinson, who is probably going to be available at that 34 to 36 pick range. He's an edge rusher. He has a great motor. He plays every down. This is 3 starters right away. Then you reach down a little bit later on and you bring up Kalen Bullock from USC. And by the way, you can have your own preferences. You might like somebody different at safety. Find me a way to get them. What I just gave you is from 5 draft picks to 8 draft picks, which changes this team dramatically. And then we go out and we find that next draft pick, I do believe, gives us Braden Fisk. Braden Fisk is a humongous defensive tackle, super strong guy coming out of Florida State. Fantastic overall player so far, graded so good in the combine. He was a monster in the combine. If you haven't watched it, by the way, go back and look at the tape. Braden Fisk, Dallas Turner, Jared Verse, some of these guys really, really showed out. And any team that gets them is going to be lucky to have them. But then you got guys like Trey Wingo, that are still out there. Defensive tackle LSU. If you miss on Jackson Powers Johnson, just in case you decided that you wanted to stay at that number 9 pick, now you wouldn't pick up any draft capital for it, but I wouldn't fault you for it if you want to take a Brock Bowers or something like that. In that next pick, you'd be looking at somebody like a Zach Frazier, which is the number 2 center coming out. There are a lot of different options that you have going into this, but you don't have those options. You do not have those options if you draft Caleb Williams. You do not have the depth of a Super Bowl team. You do not have the strength of a Super Bowl team. You've got people who are horrible in your roster, on your lineup, who cannot do the job that their position requires. Dominique Robinson comes into mind. And look, I feel like I'm being disrespectful to Dominique Robinson, but you saw the product on the field. You know, you know what I mean? You saw Elijah Hicks on the field. You know what you're getting there. You know the big plays that were given up. I mean, you see all this stuff. You know who these players are. You know what they're doing. You know how bad Eddie Jackson played when he got back. And we love Eddie Jackson, but he played poorly. So, the question now becomes, how do we get to that next level? And if you just consider one elite person on the defense, what Tremaine Edmonds, $22 million, and he was one of the worst. He was one of the 10 worst, right? Montez Sweat was one of the best, but that was $25 million. You want to bring in a high octane guy. It's going to cost you in the $20 million range, and you only have $38 million left. What are you going to do? It has to be built through the draft. This team needs at least one more year of building through the draft. It might even need 2 years. I'm not even saying that Justin Fields is that guy. I understand if you want to move on from him. I just value those draft picks more than I value Caleb Williams. And I hope that that's fair enough for each and every one of you. If Justin Fields is the quarterback, I'm all in. If Caleb Williams is the quarterback, I'm all in. It doesn't matter to me. I want to see the Bears succeed. In my opinion, you build championship teams through the draft. You don't build it through free agency. And we would have to be building through free agency if we continue to give up draft capital. And by drafting in the positions that we have with very few picks in this draft, that's exactly what we'll be doing. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Tarvarius Moore, welcome aboard. Colin Johnson has re-signed on the practice squad. Patrick Scales is back as the long snapper. We don't have contract details for them yet, so we don't know. But assuming those guys all together were either $2 or $3 million, well, that drops the salary cap down to $60 million, I want to say. And it starts getting tight from there because, again, $25 million, you need $10 million on the sidelines for the season, just in case something happens. You got to have that money, or you got that $15 million that you're going to need for the draft, and that's going to be a lot. That's leaving you $35 million. So what are you going to do? I mean, you build through the draft. That's what you do, and you cannot build through the draft if you're taking the quote unquote best quarterback in the draft at the first pick. And to be fair, look, let me even say, this is not about Justin Fields. It's not about Caleb Williams. If you were at the number 3 pick to pick Marvin Harrison Jr., and then you picked up all the draft picks, and then at the number 9 pick, you chose JJ McCarthy. Or if Jaden Daniels was still available, you took Jaden Daniels. Or if Drake May was still available, you took Drake. I don't like Drake May. Let me go back here. I don't like Drake. I don't see whatever these guys are trying to tell you that they see that he's the number 1 player. I don't get. I still don't see it. But JJ McCarthy's out there. Michael Penix. There are still people. So at the number 9 selection, if you reach for a quarterback there, and Justin Fields is traded the next day, I still don't have a problem with that. I would like it to be Justin Fields, but I don't need it to be Justin Fields, if that makes sense. This is about draft capital and about getting the most out of this draft and figuring out a way to make the Bears the best team that they can possibly be. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate each and every one of you. You take the time to come watch me. I really appreciate. Thank you so much. Make sure you hit the like button, the subscribe button, the bell to be notified. Make sure you bear down, and we'll talk to you again very, very soon.